I noticed the ad before my coffee finished dripping. Cozy backyard studio, Sacramento Midtown, quiet, private, move-in ready. No pets. The photo at the top was my kettle, the one with the dent from the year Ethan tried to make me breakfast. The second photo was my quilt, folded into a crisp rectangle like I was a hotel that had checked out of myself. I read the line twice, move-in ready, and felt something inside me tilt, as if the house shifted a few inches on its foundation. I pressed my thumb and forefinger at the corners of my eyes to keep the sting from spilling. I am 72 and a bookkeeper by temperament. I like things to balance before noon. The listing lived on a site I didn't use, but Amber did. She once told me, half joking, that algorithms are just friends we haven't met yet. I clicked the contact button and saw her handle, AMBRR, at the bottom. No phone number, just a cheerful promise. Available Friday. Friday was 3 days away. There's a moment when you know you are being erased. Then there's the second moment when you decide whether to pick up a pen. I closed the browser and looked around at the 4 things I claim in this world: my tea kettle, my ledger, my lemon tree, and my silence. We built the ADU when Ethan said, "This is for you, Mom, no stairs, all the light you want." I financed it through a credit union CD ladder and a small home equity draw. The trust spelled it out. I retained a life estate in the granny flat. These are boring words until someone tries to turn them into confetti. I wrote the date at the top of a fresh page, Monday, June 9th. Under it, 7:13 a.m. Saw a listing of my ADU online, move-in ready by Friday. Screenshots saved. Left margin, Exhibit A, call logs and screenshots, draft. Right margin, feeling, shocked then steady. When the coffee finished, the kettle in the listing looked shinier than mine. I reached up and touched the dent to confirm reality. The dent did not flinch. At 8:30, Ethan's shoes entered the walkway before he did. He pushed the door open the way he used to push the swing, confident, not careful. "Morning, Mom." He scanned the room too quickly. "Your quilt is famous today," I said. "It's starting a new life on the internet." He blinked. "What?" "The listing." My voice stayed level. Accountants learn that voice is a number that can turn any column red if you let it. He looked toward the yard as if answers grew there. "Amber is exploring options," he said finally. "The market's weird. We're just seeing interest." "In renting my home?" "It's our property line, Mom." He shifted his weight. "We're underwater on a couple things. Short term. You know how fast rates changed. What would you like me to do? Fold myself into the quilt and mail myself to a P.O. box?" He tried to smile and failed. For a second, I saw the boy who ran home in a storm with my library book under his shirt. "It's not like that," he said. "It would be temporary. We thought you might prefer something with more support. A senior place. It's safer." If safety is a place, it has a door I can lock, a kettle I dented, and a trust that says I live here. We stood in the quiet of things that still work, the fridge hum, the lemon tree's shadow climbing the sink. "Friday is 3 days away," I said. "Did you want to pack me tonight or tomorrow?" "Don't do that," he said, the way people say don't when they mean this is going to happen. "Please don't make me feel like the bad one." "Ethan," I said, one question with a date for the answer. "Have you read the trust?" His jaw moved once, twice. Amber skimmed it. "So no." I nodded. "I'll send the relevant sections." After he left, I opened the binder that has taken more heat than my kettle. Tabs, ADU permits, trust/notary, bank, Golden One, pharmacy, certified mail, APS, timeline, boundaries, photos. Mr. Devine at the credit union once told me, in a dispute, the winner is the person with the calmest paper. By 9, I had 3 things moving. 1, an email to Ethan and Amber. Subject, notice of life estate and ADU use. Bullet points, not knives. I attached the trust pages and wrote, "I prefer solutions with the least restrictive impact on everyone. We can use a neutral fiduciary to structure household rules." 2, a draft of a boundaries letter/protocol, quiet rules for loud times. Access to my ADU by consent, written communications, repairs scheduled with notice, weekly meals in the big house if we can manage civility. 3, A sticky note that said Rite Aid counseling logs because Amber had started telling people I was forgetful. I forget what I don't need. The refills I remember. At 10, Amber texted, "Saw your email. Friday's still good." I typed, deleted, then sent. "I will not be leaving my home. Let's slow down and use a neutral." I added Mr. Sloan's contact, the trustee who helped me set the trust last year precisely to avoid this. By noon, the listing's title changed. Backyard studio, showings this week. The word showings made my ribs feel like a house with invisible people walking through it. I walked to the big house. The air smelled like new paint and lemon cleaner. Amber stood in the kitchen arranging peonies into a vase. "You could have asked," I said. She didn't look up. "It's not personal, Lori. It's a plan. Plans that rely on erasing people tend to go wrong in funny ways," I said. "Sometimes the eraser eats the paper." She laughed. "We're trying to optimize resources. The ADU is underused." "Underused by me?" I asked. "I sleep there every night. You know what I mean." She looked up then. "Everyone I follow says passive income is how you stay afloat." I could have told her that passive income becomes very active when it walks through your door carrying a suitcase that smells like somebody else's home. Instead, "I'll be sending you a certified letter." "Why?" "We're family." "Because family is the first place I want clarity." Back in the ADU, I wrote the facts as if they'd happened to someone I was hired to protect. 7:13 a.m. Listing appears. Screenshots saved. 8:37 a.m. Ethan proposes temporary move-out. References our property line. Rates, senior place safer. 10:02 a.m. Amber confirms Friday. Noon. Title changed to showings. 12:25 p.m. Kitchen conversation with Amber. Optimize resources. Passive income. We're family. Left column. Who benefits? Right. What proofs exist? At 1:30, I walked to the post office with the quiet clerk who looks like she keeps bees. I mailed certified mail. Return receipt requested to the house and to Amber's P.O. box. Demand to cease unlawful eviction attempts. Notice of life estate rights. Proposal of household protocol. Option of neutral fiduciary. Trust pages enclosed. On the way home, I stopped at Rite Aid. "Hi, Ms. Ortega," I said. "Printout of my counseling logs and the last 12 months of refills, please." "Of course," she said. "We can have that by tomorrow." I added a line to the log. Pharmacy request submitted. Exhibit G initiated. By 3, the big house thumped twice, the sound of furniture thinking about moving. In my timeline file I wrote, 3:04 p.m., furniture movement in main house, possible staging for showings. Exhibit E timeline. At 4, I called Golden One Credit Union. Manager's note request, I told the receptionist. Proof of deposits and transfers for the ADU build. Mr. Devine came on with his soft click voice. "We can prepare a letter that summarizes funding dates," he said. "Also copies of statements." "And a note that I initiated them," I said. He paused. "Yes. I remember you." "I bring evidence," I said. "Sometimes it looks like muffins." At 5, Ethan texted, "This is getting out of hand." At 6, I peeled an orange over the newspaper. The fruit requires a human tempo. I thought about why a woman has to prove she belongs in the home she financed, and why men say we when they mean me. I thought about love as a fence with a gate, never a wall, never a moat, but not an open pasture either. When dusk slid under the blinds, Ethan knocked again. He didn't wait. "Mom, this is ridiculous," he said, pacing 2 steps and back. "You escalated." "Certified mail? The bank?" "Pharmacy logs." "I am narrating," I said. "Sometimes narration keeps people from improvising." He rubbed his face. "You're making me the bad guy." "No," I said. "I am making me the documented one." He stopped. "If you won't be reasonable," he said, "I'll talk to a lawyer about conservatorship." The word rang like a dropped spoon. "Conservatorship is not a shortcut," I said quietly. "It requires clear and convincing evidence. The court also has to consider the least restrictive alternative to meet any actual need. A logbook and a life estate are not symptoms." His mouth became a straight line. "You're not listening," he said. "I listen enough to begin writing," I said. "I suggest you begin reading." He left in the sharp way people leave when they think the door will be the last word. I let the silence settle. I wrote in my log, 6:58 p.m. Ethan threatens conservatorship. Response. Standards named, neutral fiduciary proposed again. Right column. Alternatives offered? Yes. Protocol plus neutral trustee. Exhibit C pending. At 8, the listing went down. 13 hours, 11 minutes. Nothing truly disappears, so I uploaded the screenshots and printed one copy for the binder. I turned the boundaries protocol into sentences. I live here. You live there. We share a fence and a name. We will schedule the ways our days touch. Mistakes will happen. The point is correction, not punishment. Love is incompatible with ambush. At 9, I opened the APS page and hovered over Request a Visit. My breath steady, my hands not. I clicked and answered the form's basic questions. I am safe tonight. I have food and water. I do not consent to be moved. I have a trust and a life estate. There is pressure and talk of conservatorship. I am documenting. Please schedule a home visit. I added a note about the listing and Friday. When I finished, the screen thanked me with bureaucracy's most tender word, submitted. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the tape rip. It's a very specific sound at night, the rip of something that wasn't there before. I waited 10 seconds before I opened the door. On the ADU door frame, a neon rectangle shouted in quiet print, Notice, City of Sacramento Code and Compliance. Someone had posted it while I was in the bathroom. The paper glowed like a small, rude moon. The notice wasn't a violation. It was a scheduling slip, an appointment for a talk about reported unpermitted modifications and access concerns. No signature, just a number and a box checked next business day. Across the yard, a light went out in the big house. I closed the door gently and wrote one last line, 9:47 p.m., city notice posted while I was inside. Photograph taken. Exhibit E plus future exhibit, to be assigned. Then I placed the notice under my kettle. The dent made a little hill in the paper. For the first time that day, I smiled. Morning tasted like paper and lemons, the kind of acid that wakes you without asking permission. I slid the neon notice from under my dented kettle and read it again, slowly, as if the words might change their mind if I gave them enough dignity. Report of unpermitted modifications/access concerns. Follow-up scheduled. Bureaucracy has a tone I trust. Indifferent, factual, almost kind by accident. I called the number with the steadiness I use to segment a budget. Code and Compliance, Reyes speaking. Good morning, I said. Someone posted a notice on my ADU last night while I was in the shower. I'd like to confirm the concern and the schedule. He checked something. I could hear the polite clatter of keys. We have an intake about potential unpermitted work and shared access issues between the main residence and a permitted ADU. Are you available this morning? I'll have my binder on the table. When I ended the call, I logged it on my timeline as 8:11 a.m. Left margin, Exhibit E timeline. Right margin, breathing even. A shadow crossed my door, Ethan's. He knocked in the rhythm of people who think knocking is symbolic and entered before had time to mature. Mom, you're making this ugly. I'm clarifying edges, I said. Edges prevent ugliness. You called the city. He tried to laugh and made it sound like a stapler misfiring. Amber says you're turning the house into a courtroom. Call logs? Certified mail? Who does that to their own family? People who want their family to survive, I said. Paper slows hands. He planted his palms on my counter and leaned toward me the way contractors lean toward drywall they intend to move. We're drowning. You think I wanted to list your place? The helix bleeding. My hours got cut. In a month the mortgage will eat us. And you decided to start the rescue by renting my breath, I said. My breath lives here. That's dramatic. He pinched the bridge of his nose. We thought if you saw the listing, it would. He stopped. Scare me useful? I finished gently. He didn't answer. Fear makes adults use children's tricks. He glanced toward the yard like there might be a door out there labeled undo. Boots on gravel. The lemon leaves shivered as Reyes came through the gate with a badge and a neutral expression that lowered the temperature in the yard. Miss Hatcher? Yes. Quick visual today. Complaint mentions access interference, possible unpermitted work planned rather than completed. I'll need to see your permit set and the utility tie-ins. My binder is alphabetized. He smiled 1 millimeter. That helps. We walked the short distance between my door and the small table where I keep my papers because papers are what makes a small table important. He reviewed the permit set, the inspection sign-offs from when the ADU was born out of forms and waiting. He asked questions that had one-sentence answers. He stood in my bathroom for a moment, nodding at the fan I insisted on upgrading because old women understand moisture better than young men do. At the big house door, Amber held up her phone and filmed, smiling a smile shaped for strangers. Content is community, she told me once. The phone lens now looked like a tiny judge. Ma'am, Reyes said, turning his calm toward her, if you've made or plan to make changes to shared utilities or structure, they'll require permits. If you have any documentation, email it. We haven't done anything, Amber said. Yet? That yet is my job, he replied, writing. The ADU appears compliant as built. I'll send notes about what would trigger permits going forward. When he left, Ethan stood under the lemon tree, torn between being my son and being the man who thinks he's in charge of solutions. We'll fix this, he said. By Friday. Fixing is specific, I said. Mine is right. The post office pinged at noon, return receipts delivered. The green cards, the smallest green things that ever saved a garden, sat on my table in their official quiet. Exhibit B. Next to them, the screenshots of the listing Exhibit A looked like before and after photos of a woman growing a spine. At one, Mr. Devine from Golden One Credit Union called. Manager's note ready. We've annotated deposits from the CD ladder and the home equity draw. Purpose, ADU construction. We can note that you and I met, reviewed risks. Please add that I initiated the moves, I said. I'll write, customer initiated. And Ms. Hatcher, he paused. You brought muffins during the last rate hike. The staff still mentions you. I bribe with carbs, I said. It's my only unethical habit. When we hung up, I slid the letter into a transparent sleeve and labeled it Exhibit D. The binder gained mass, grams of gravity, ounces of safety. At 2, Rite Aid printed my counseling notes and refills. Ms. Ortega clipped the packet. You answer my prompts like a teacher grading me, she said. No adherence issues. I'll write an addendum. People confuse gentleness with fog, I said. I count pills the way I count holidays. Let me know if you need the pharmacist letter sooner, she said. I added the packet to my binder, Exhibit G with the ink smell of competence. At 3, a drag scrape from the big house, furniture rehearsing for strangers. Exhibit E, 3:04 p.m., staging sounds in main house. On the right margin, possible showings if code notes don't deter. At 4, APS responded to my online request. MS. Howell had the soft hands of a person who knows which things break without making a sound. She didn't look impressed by anybody's narrative. She asked to see my refrigerator because refrigerators tell the truth about food, dates, plans. She took a quiet inventory and then asked about my pills, my bills, my sleep. I answered like an accountant reading her own ledgers. Do you feel safe tonight? She asked. I feel safe if boundaries hold, I said, and if paper is honored in this house. We're not enforcement, she said. We assess and connect. We also close files when services aren't needed. Closure, I said, tasting the word. An underrated mercy. She met with Ethan and Amber in the big house. Through my open window, I heard soft moth words. She's forgetting. Stubborn. Not safe alone. I watched the lemon leaves stutter in the air conditioner's exhale and decided not to go in there, not to defend myself with volume. My binder could speak in or register the wall's respect. When Ms. Howell returned, her matter-of-fact voice landed like a clean cloth over a spill. You're oriented to time, place, person. Your medication management is intact. You know your finances and the legal structure of your trust. We'll file that. If you need services later, you can call. Will there be a letter? I asked. It's a strange thing to crave paper. Often there is, she said. Either a service plan or a closure. Thank you, I said, and wrote Exhibit F, APS in my index, with a small flare of relief that looked like honesty, not triumph. Dusk bled into the edges of the blinds. Mr. Sloane, the neutral fiduciary, arrived with a legal pad and the patience of a person who doesn't try to out fear. "I read your boundaries protocol," he said. "We can formalize it. You, as life estate holder, control occupancy and access to the ADU. They control the main house. We specify notice periods, repair schedules, written-only dispute channels. I'll be the custody point for changes." "Will they sign?" I asked. "They'll be asked," he said. "Paper can't make people kind. It can make them careful." They declined within the hour. Amber wrote, "We won't be managed by a stranger." Ethan wrote, "This is family." I logged their refusal with clinical neatness. 7:22 p.m. Neutral fiduciary offered. Declined. Exhibit C shows alternative refused. Then I cried for 4 minutes with my face in a hand towel that had seen better nights. Then I folded the towel and wrote 8:01 p.m. crying, improved after documentation. I want a record of the way the body survives. A white envelope slid onto my welcome mat the next morning like a sentence that thinks it's a paragraph. Probate court, notice of hearing. Tuesday. Words rearranged the air. My first thought was unprintable. My second was a list. I set the notice next to the kettle and began loading the spine of my binder with what a courtroom understands. Exhibit A, listing screenshots and call log entries. Exhibit B, certified letters plus green card signed. Exhibit C, neutral fiduciary proposal and their written refusal. Exhibit D, bank manager's note, funding, initiation by me. Exhibit E, timeline, staging, city notice, inspection. Exhibit F, APS visit notes, closure expected. Exhibit G, pharmacy counseling plus refill logs. Exhibit H, trust, life estate clause, plus notarization. Exhibit I, boundaries protocol V1. I rehearsed answers in my kitchen, aloud, to no one and to the woman I needed to be when someone tried to call me less than myself. The lemon tree watched like a quiet witness. I ironed the blouse that makes me look like I have a plan. On Sunday afternoon, Mrs. Klein, my neighbor, knocked with the kind of casserole people bring to grief and strategy both. "You looked thin from far away," she said. "I'm the same size," I said, smiling. "I just learned to stand taller." She sat at my small table and spoke in the cautious intimacy neighbors earn over decades of trash day and bloom cycles. "Your boy's scared," she said. "Scared makes people use other people like umbrellas." "I won't let him," I said. "I know." She slid a folded note toward me. "My number if the city needs a statement about the day they posted that thing." I was on my porch. I saw who taped it. Her eyes said the rest, not the city employee. I added a line to Exhibit E, witness observed posting, non-city person taping notice before evening. Truth lengthened its legs. That night, when sleep was shy, I took down a dusty box from my closet, family photos 1990 to 2005. I laid images on the bed until my room looked like a private museum of love. Ethan at 10, missing a front tooth, making a lemon face under the very tree that now holds our conversations. Amber the first Christmas she came, the dog sweater I regret buying. My late husband in the garage, he claimed he would organize when the world slowed. The world did not slow. He died with the garage the same beautiful mess, and me holding a screwdriver like a talisman. I put one photo on my nightstand, Ethan, 12, at the kitchen table, face pinched at long division. I had written out the steps on a card. 1. Line up the columns. 2. Start with the leftmost place. 3. Bring down what remains. It struck me that adulthood is just longer problems with the same instructions. Monday morning, Reyes emailed his notes. ADU compliant as built. No unpermitted work observed. Future modifications to shared systems require permits. Access to ADU by consent. I printed the email, slid it into Exhibit E, and felt the arc of the day tilt toward court. Ethan texted, "Can we talk before Tuesday?" "Yes," I wrote. On the record. In my kitchen. He came in with a careful humility that smelled like the perfume of someone else's idea. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "Then don't," I said. "I don't have choices," he said. "Not the kind that fix numbers." "Numbers have more choices than people," I said. "They don't get offended when you move them." He laughed, a small, surprised sound. For a second, I thought the boy at the long division table had remembered step 3. What if the judge agrees with me? He asked. Then I'll live and you'll live, and we'll both learn how much proof the word clear demands, I said. But I don't want to win. I want you to stop losing yourself in the story where I am the problem you solve. His jaw worked. We'll see you in court, he said, a sentence that sounded like a coat he didn't want to wear. When he left, I wrote, peer rehearing, attempted dialogue, restated standards, reaffirmed neutral as least restrictive alternative. Then I poured water into my kettle with the ordinary reverence that keeps people sane. Tuesday morning, I dressed in navy because navy is what you wear when you need gravity. I walked into Sacramento County Probate Court with my binder anchored against my ribs. In the lobby, I passed young couples fighting politely and old men lost in their own jackets. The security guard nodded me through with a courtesy that made me feel like I still belong in public. Ethan sat on a bench with a lawyer whose hair made promises his arguments might not keep. Amber scrolled her phone like it was feeding her. I sat across from them and opened my binder not to show off, but to remind my hands what they can hold. When the clerk called our case, the air shifted from hallway oxygen to courtroom climate. Judge Patel entered with the authority of a person who wakes up knowing what words weigh. We stated names. The lawyer said the phrases they always say: increasing forgetfulness, unsafe behavior, resists safer alternatives. He held up a few texts printed too large. Nothing in his stack had the smell of pharmacy ink or the green of a return receipt. The judge turned to me. Ms. Hatcher, respond as you wish. I stood, approached with copies, and let Exhibit H speak first, the trust with the life estate clause. Then Exhibit A, the listing with my kettle and my quilt. Then Exhibit B, certified mail with green cards like small flags of having done the adult thing. Exhibit D, the bank's letter. Exhibit G, pharmacy logs crowned with MS. Ortega's clean addendum. Exhibit F, APS's note with the word that untied a knot in my chest. Closure. Exhibit E, timeline with Reyes's email clipped like a final note in a song. Exhibit C, my proposed neutral fiduciary, declined. Exhibit I, boundaries protocol like a ladder in a smoky room. The judge's questions were quiet knives. Any professional evaluations, counsel? Any incidents of harm? Any missed essentials? The answers, when they came, were thin. She leaned back the way people lean back when they want space to let a sentence land. The standard for temporary conservatorship is clear and convincing evidence. We also consider whether there exists a least restrictive alternative. Ms. Hatcher proposed a neutral fiduciary and a household protocol. APS and pharmacy records contradict petitioner's assertions. The bank letter corroborates her financial agency. There is no evidence of imminent harm or unmanaged needs. She denied the petition and spoke the order in spare, humane prose. The petition for temporary conservatorship is denied. The court recognizes the respondent's life estate rights in the ADU as documented. Parties shall implement a written household protocol to govern access, repairs, and communication. A neutral independent fiduciary may be engaged by mutual agreement to hold and administer the protocol. Parties are reminded to use civil processes for any property or code issues. APS may close its inquiry consistent with its findings. No drama. Just edges. It felt like the courthouse exhaled. In the hallway after, Amber stared at me as if I had tricked the air. Ethan looked at the floor like he'd dropped something only he could see. Coffee? I asked him. There's a place where the muffins forgive almost anything. I have a call, he said, voice catching. He didn't say I'm sorry. I didn't force it out of him. Forgiveness asked for on cue is just applause. At home, the APS closure letter arrived in my email with a PDF that looked like a bedtime story for adults. No services indicated at this time. I printed it and gave Exhibit F its final page. Then I set my kettle back on the flame and watched the dent warm to usefulness. That evening, I wrote Boundaries Protocol, version 2, shorter, clearer, kinder to future us. I slid it into an envelope and wrote their names in the script I use only for holidays and warnings. I set the table in the big house with plates that had seen both our better and our worse and texted dinner. 6 p.m. Calm voices. One subject at a time. People need rules like knees need ligaments. They came. Amber with the look of a woman who had to dismount a narrative in public. Ethan with palms flat, as if the table might slide. I opened by naming what matters. Debt feels like a person at the door. I will not be the door you break down because you're afraid to open the real one. Ethan swallowed. We didn't want it to be you. I know, I said. Then don't make it me. Make a plan with things that can be moved without breaking. I pointed at the garage. Permit it. Rent it. Or sublet a room to a student with references. Ask Mr. Sloan to hold the paperwork if you don't trust yourselves. Use tools for the job, not the whole human. Amber's laugh was a small, tired bird. That line will do well online, she said. Tools for the job, not the whole human. Some things shouldn't go online, I said. They should go right here. I tapped the protocol envelope. If you won't sign, that's still the script I will follow. Ethan slid the envelope into his pocket like a boy hiding a stone. We'll read it, he said. It wasn't a promise. But it was a gate swinging on a hinge that didn't squeal. I slept like a person who had finally put her binder down without fearing it would be needed before morning. Courtrooms teach a particular posture, spine like a line item, shoulders level as a ledger, feet that do not try to run. But life after court requires a different skill, walking through your own kitchen without bracing for impact. The day after the hearing, I tested the floorboards with my heels. Nothing cracked. Even the lemon tree seemed to unclench. The order lived on my refrigerator, printed in a font so plain it felt like advice. The paper didn't brag, it simply sat there, proof that adults had made a decision and no one had bled to persuade them. I took a photo, not for the internet, but for the file named Home That Stays. I had expected relief to behave like joy. It didn't. It felt like the last 20 minutes of a storm, light returning with a clumsy hand, birds rehearsing their parts, the roof confessing every small weakness it endured. I made tea and set the dented kettle down gently, like a survivor. Reyes sent a final note, courteous, practical, free of adjectives, aid you approved as built, no unpermitted work observed. Future modifications to shared systems require permits and inspections. Access to ADU remains by consent of life estate holder. I printed it for Exhibit E and created a new tab called Compliance because I intend to be fluent in any language that keeps my home mine. By noon, Mr. Sloan knocked. He always looks like he is about to help a chair understand itself. The court left the door open to a neutral, he said. If they agree, I'll hold your protocol and referee only when necessary. I wrote version 2, I said, handing him the page that had lost all its adverbs and kept its verbs. He read, nodded. Guardrails, not walls. I learned that from a lemon tree, I said. It makes fruit because it has shape. We drafted a simple step-down plan. If they sign, Mr. Sloan receives disputes by email, holds a shared spreadsheet of repairs, timestamps communications, escalates to mediation only if necessary. If they don't sign, I follow the protocol unilaterally. Written communication, consent-only access, scheduled repairs, shared meals only when calm is probable. Simpler than love, adequate for peace. The door opened. Ethan and Amber stood there like a before and after for the same apology. We read it, Ethan said, tapping his pocket where the envelope had slept overnight. We'll sign if you remove the line about Mr. Sloan holding the key to changes. That's the point, I said. Keys get lost in panic. We're not children, Amber said, a little too sharply. I'm not your warden, I said, gently. Silence behaved itself for a full minute and then sat down. Mr. Sloan, a student of human weather, offered a smaller compromise. He would hold a digital copy of the protocol. Signatures would remain ours. Changes require written acknowledgement by all parties. His role only to note the date and keep a copy that history cannot eat. They agreed. It was not a transformation, merely a haircut. That's the problem with miracles. They make you forget that hair grows back. We signed. The ceremony was ordinary and therefore holy. Printed names, wet ink, a photo of the page that would never go online. We shook hands like people who had found the floor again. 2 days later, the APS closure letter arrived on paper, not just PDF. It had the tender sentence I wanted. No services indicated at this time. Case closed. I filed it as the last sheet of Exhibit F and wrote beside it, Mercy. I am not religious in a way that requires buildings, but I know a sacrament when it sits on my table. I spent a morning doing what triumphant stories never show, moving through the after. I cleaned the stovetop with a care normally reserved for secrets. I watered the lemon tree and whispered, "You did well." I called Ms. Ortega to thank her for the notes, Mr. Devine to say his letter had been read silently by a judge who knows the price of commas. I texted Reyes a thank you with no emojis. I put the family photos back in their box, one by one, resisting the urge to narrate them an ending that isn't true yet. At 4, Ethan knocked alone. He didn't pretend not to be nervous. We sat without coffee because some talks shouldn't be softened. He stared at his hands. "I'm ashamed," he said finally. "Shame is good if it points," I said. "Bad if it anchors." "I talked about you like a problem," he said. "To my friends. To a lawyer. Online. You are allowed to be wrong," I said. "I am not a problem. I am a woman who has a home, a binder, and a son learning a harder math." He nodded, tears parked in the corners like cars waiting for the light. "I wanted you to rescue me the way you always did. I thought the aid you could be the raft." He shook his head. "That wasn't fair. The raft is you," I said. "You, doing smaller honest things for a longer time than you feel like doing them." "Like what?" His voice was so young it hurt. "Call the credit union," I said. "Ask about a hardship modification. Sell the boat you don't use. Cancel the service that exists to make you forget you don't need it. Rent the garage, permitted. Make a list. Check boxes. Advice is just instruction until you touch it." He laughed softly. "You always make me a list." "Because lists don't lie," I said. "They just wait." He reached in his pocket and took out the protocol, now creased like something that rides close to a body. "We'll follow this," he said. "Even the part where we cancel dinner if we can't be kind." "That part is my favorite," I said. "Canceling is a gift when anger is hungry." When he stood to go, he bent as if to kiss my head, then paused the way a respectful person pauses before crossing a boundary they do not own. "May I?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He kissed my hair like a boy who remembered what doors are for. I thought the story would end then, but endings are shy. 2 weeks later, the garage looked like a life-wanting structure. Ethan sent a photo of a freshly swept floor and a printed permit application clipped to a clipboard. "Step 1, his text said. "Is there a step 2? "Paint," I wrote back. "Then a door that locks. Then a lease that won't embarrass you." He sent a smile that didn't use an emoji. I offered to help with the lease and then remembered the point is not that I am clever. The point is that he can be. Mr. Sloan offered a template. Amber surprised me by asking real questions about references and deposits. She stopped filming our dinners. She started writing grocery lists on the fridge. Lists are what repentance looks like in kitchens. Sometimes I still stand at my ADU door at dusk and feel the echo of the week when I was almost unhomed. The dent in my kettle glows in the warm light like a scar that no longer aches. I run my thumb over it, a small vow, I remain. On the wall near my keys, I pinned a one-page sheet titled Aftercare, Repairs by Schedule, No Surprise Fixes. Access by Consent, Knock and Wait. Weekly email check-ins about bills/maintenance. Mr. Sloan on CC, shared meals when calm is probable, cancel when it's not. If conflict spikes, neutral first, then county mediation, never court unless paper has failed for a season. Below it, a small index card in my old long division handwriting. 1. Line up the columns. 2. Start with the leftmost place. 3. Bring down what remains. When fear visits, I line up the columns. Facts, feelings, future. I start with the leftmost place, today. I bring down what remains, what I can carry, what I can set down, what I can sign. Ethan still worries too loudly some days. Amber still edits the world with her thumbs. I still keep my binder by the door because habits are seat belts. But the house has learned a new tone. The lemon tree keeps making small suns. The ADU whispers in the language of refrigerators and baseboards and laundry machines, home. And when I pass my refrigerator, the order stares back at me with its modest courage, reminding me that the law, when it is at its best, is not a hammer but a ruler, something you lay next to two surfaces to see if they can meet without breaking. I pour water into the kettle. The flame wakes. The dent warms. The house listens to the small grammar of ordinary things continuing, and I let myself believe that survival can be quiet and still be a triumph.